Okay, so Kendra is super cool. So here's the flow we want to talk about with Kendra. Let me put this up on the screen. So you saw here, we have our transcript as a field in ClickUp. We have,
there we
go. Here we go. We saw we have our transcript as a field in ClickUp. Now, when we also set that transcript, we also have a Lambda function that's going to take that transcript and it's going to write it out as a text file and put it into an S3 bucket. Oh, not a video bucket. Again, this is behind the scenes, just an S3 bucket. Now, this bucket is configured to talk to Kendra, and Kendra's watching it, and then we can query it. So let's look at it from the AWS perspective. Here is our Kendra setup. I probably should zoom in here. So we have, I'll have to regenerate some of this later. Anyway, we have an index, we have a data source, and now let's have a look at how we can interact with it. So I'm starting
just some background while this thing is coming up. A quick background. So before Kendra existed, a simple way to think about Kendra is like his Google search for your data. Though we're talking about Amazon here, so it's a little confusing that way. But think of what you experience when you type some text in the search input field. You just expect to magically get answers. If you had to do that behind the scenes yourself, what you would typically do is put together something like Elasticsearch, and then you would figure out stitch together a bunch of NLP tools that would give you all of these entities that you would index on. And then you'd basically take all of that data, put together a pipeline that ingests all this data into Elasticsearch. And then you would query Elasticsearch and then present it out, right? And then you'd have to do a bunch of tweaking to figure out what relevance means and what is appropriate in certain contexts. And then you'd build layers of, rule-based systems that handles all of this stuff. And then hopefully get good search results at the end of it. In our experience, dealing with a lot of CRM solutions and internet wiki solutions and stuff within our portfolio, that self-built stuff was an unmitigated disaster. So when Kendra came along, we got so excited for what it does. So, Stephen, you want to show everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Here goes. And again, I remember at one point I worked at an email hosting startup, and I remember building my first search engine literally as a wrapper around grep. So you had a CGI bin script, which was taking some input, calling grep on the file system under the hood, parsing the results back, and then using old CGI, if you remember that, and posting it back. And it worked kind of well. I remember at some point thinking, like, I understood the Perl regular expression engine well enough to think, I know how I can crash this. And I searched for a sequence of characters, and sure enough. And that's the thing that you'll always be dealing with that. Even now, 25 years later, you'll still be dealing with random issues that come up if you try and roll your own. Okay, so here's Kendra. So again, just showing how it worked. I think I should that. Yeah. So we have our episodes that go into an S3 bucket. Kendra indexes it, and then we can query it. So here's a dev space that has Kendra script in it. And I'll show you how we can interact with it. So let's say Python 3 Kendra.py. Now, a few episodes ago, I told a story about how my Australian wife went into a store and she ordered hot chips, and they microwaved a bag of potato chips and handed it to her. And I don't know if they were just joking with her or what they were doing, but it was a funny anecdote. And I don't remember exactly what episode it was. So say if we look for French fries, hot chips into Kendra. Okay, now it gives us the answer. Oh, our first one is an answer. It says in the episode 12 episode, and then here's the little sentence that we use. I guess I was talking at this point. telling it in our opening banter, telling that funny story. Oh, there's episode 12. So that's our answer. Now, let's see, what other things we have? Oh, well, here, document 3. So then the score starts dropping. We're talking about hot, it being hot. So it's not matching the chips part, but it's matching hot. And then later we talked about Raoul's plants in episode 10 being hot, but we used the word 44 degrees centigrade and hot. So then you see the search kind of goes down. What about a time we talked about stored procedures? Let's do stored procedures.
Was this the episode we talked about bad practices?
Well, we have a couple of times, but they're always, let's see. So the most one here, here we go. Episode 15, 1,400 stored procedures, just a mountain of
I remember that example.
Yeah. Here's episode 11. We look at sediment buildup under these rocks. That's obviously stored procedures calling stored procedures. Here we go. Episode 12, sequel, where it's both a strength and a weakness, is that you can do something complicated. So again, episode 7, we talked about stored procedures. I don't think we ever talk about them in a great way.
So the big insight that comes from Kendra is that I have a pet peeve for about SQL stored procedures.
Let's see when we talk about SageMaker. This is cool. Okay, SageMaker, episode 7, SageMaker Data Wrangler, SageMaker Canvas. We talked about it in episode 16, SageMaker Cloud. Why would they do this? Still, again, we found that one. So it's really neat. We can now search our documents intelligently. I think when we have a few more episodes under our belt, we'll be able to use the SageMaker querying, which will be kind of fun.
Yeah. And just imagine if you had any kind of document store and you want an NLP-based search. It's really simple to put this together with Kendra and make it available as, a searchable index. And you can ask natural language-based questions out of it. So instead of actually providing words, why don't you try this? And I don't know if this does it. With the way your script passes it as is.
Okay.
But why don't we search for when did I ask for hot chips? Or when did we talk about hot chips? What is the first one that came up?
That's episode 12, documents.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you can actually ask natural language-based questions of Kendra, and it understands it. You don't have to do the Elasticsearch type. Hey, here are the only words or tags. You can ask natural language-based questions of Kendra.
Let's look at this one. Graviton. 14, 13, 13, 12, 11, 18, 4, 15. We like the Graviton. And we can, we should run sentiment analysis on all of our different topics. On the text near, and then that would be a funny table to generate. I'll work on that for next time. So I'll run all of the different AWS services, run a Kendra search on all of them, and then report our sentiment. Because I think that would be really, okay. And okay, so we got a comment from a viewer, really happy about this one. Well, I just joined a raw idea of AWS from end user perspective. Curious about all this to see the magic happening. All right, thank you. I hope you do check out the full episode and let us know if you have any questions or ideas for a future one. And I think this summarizes the recognition of Kendra. It's just, that's how we feel about it too. Kendra is super cool. And this is stuff that, it's only a few lines of Python and mostly, moving data around. The magic is really just pointing it to an S3 bucket full of text and asking it questions.
Correct. Okay.
All right. Well, anything else we have to say about
it? No, try it out. Try it out on anything that has, wherever you have tons of text. This is the holy grail of searching through loads and loads of text. Oh, one other thing that, just a general pattern that we've seen that I found very useful is to take any kind of content you have. It could be audio, video, text. The standard pipeline that we apply almost everywhere is first just as a general practice, translate that to English, because that can be a common way in which you can process all the data and index it and search it and do all of that stuff. So what we typically do is do the translation step. And then once we do translation, then we for video and audio, we transcribe and then do the translation. And then once you have the translated text all in English, then you can run through the regular pipeline of comprehend for tagging, entity recognition, stuff like that. You can then run through all of just index it into Kendra and make it fully searchable. One of the big projects that's currently underway within our org is we are taking all of our meetings from forever that we've had in the likes of Zoom and Chime, and we're just indexing it all so that we can search through it and actually figure out. There's just so much tribal knowledge that's stuck in these videos and meeting recordings that if only we could unleash that value and go refer to it and say, hey, I was talking to Stephen in some meeting from I don't know when, and we were talking about SageMaker. What meeting was that? To be able to ask that question and get it answered is incredibly valuable as an organization.
What I really like, in addition to everything you just said, just thinking back to the promises of the semantic web projects, right, where they wanted to add all this structure, and that was a real. If you dig back through some of that stuff and all the stuff that got invented, it was really interesting to see. Okay, how much if you have to do this manually? When are you talking about a person? When are you talking about a place? When are you talking about a quantity? And in order to actually write semantic compliant documents, how cumbersome it is, and you have to learn about RDF triples and all this stuff to really be able to add the structure to your document. But now you can just say, get it into a text file. If it's an audio, that's no problem. You can get audio or video to text pretty quickly. And then now that it's just in plain old English or whatever language, you can add structure to it automatically and be able to say, here's the persons, here's the places, here's the things, here's custom entities that we have trained our model on to look for, and add all of that structure in after the fact.
Correct.
It's really, really exciting. And like you said, because you've stored all those meetings, you can then run it retrospectively and add all this richness. It's not just, going forward. You can, through one big batch job, push all your meetings through. It's really cool.
Exactly. I'm just going to add 2 more services just for the audience to keep in mind to look into. The first one is recognition. So just like comprehend is to NLP or the natural language processing stuff, or to text in general, recognition does the same stuff, but for video. So if you wanted to search for videos where there are, where there might be a banner that says something, some text in it, or you might want, we use recognition for identifying segments, and we just discussed that in the last episode. There are a bunch of different things that recognition can actually search for and find for you. And so take a look at that. And the last recommendation that I have in this suite of AWS services is Textract. So let's say you have a PDF document or a bill or things like that, and you actually want structured text. Now, it's easy for our programs to look at JSON and deal with it. But if you give it a PDF document, which has, a bill where it has a title, it has a table in there with a bunch of data and stuff like that, it's really hard for machines to parse it. You can hope that it's all going to be structured, but things never are. So there is a lot of very neat technology that goes into Textract to give you all of that data in JSON form. And JSON is very easily readable and very easy to process. So when you have documents in that format and that structure, just forms are a perfect example. When you have online forms, or actually not even online forms, if you have physical forms that people have to write into and submit, then using something like Textract to actually get a digital version of that with a full JSON, JSON evaluation of your form is incredibly valuable.
I used Textract at a consulting product a few years ago where these people were working with a supplier that were very old fashioned, and there was no ERP or any kind of accounting software. They just sent a PDF with item number, order date, whatever, and we can set up a really system where the guy who was receiving these orders, whenever they sent him the invoice, he could just forward it to an email address that was dedicated to Textract, and Textract would take it from there. And we didn't have to, because before that, he was literally opening up this PDF, opening up his Xero accounting software, and just moving the data around. And with Textract, it made it so much easier to get all these different structure out of this data, because it was really neat data, but they would only give us PDFs, the vendor.
Yeah.
So Textract's a great way to go.
Here's another very, very interesting use case, and it's in our setup. So whenever we acquire companies, invariably you also get all the other vendor contracts and all of your other, relationships that are all legal contracts, or even customer contracts. You get them all as big PDFs. Now, to take that and put that into your CRM system, or to put it into your financial system, or to understand what the risks or liabilities are, the due diligence that you need to perform on those, it becomes so much easier with Textract, because you're literally looking for a section called liabilities, or you're looking for a section for SLAs, or you're looking for a particular section in the text, and you know what you're looking for, and whether it's a table or whether it's a it's in the appendix, you basically have these tables of a bunch of very important data that you want to capture. Textract does that for you and gives it to you in JSON form, and then you can process it any way you want.
Oh, I wonder how Kendra would do with legal questions.
Apparently pretty decently. There is a separate set of entities you may have to train it on, but legal is one of the big legal and insurance, I heard from the Kendra team, are some very interesting and exciting use cases for them.
Well, I'll reach out to someone on the Kendra team, because I think we have enough questions that it would be good to have a full interview. So I'll reach out to someone on the Kendra team. Let's make that happen in the next couple of weeks. That would be really fun.
Sounds great.
Well, should we do our last segment?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. We're going to show you quick